Good morning and welcome back to the One Celtic Fans View this morning. Hope it finds you well. Hope it's not too cold and I hope it's not raining. It's sunny here, but it's cooled down just a little bit. Anyway, there's a lot of transfer speculation going around about two players from Celtic. Yes, Brendan Rodgers has said that he really wants to keep one of the players, and we're going to talk about why Brendan Rodgers wants to keep him. There's many fans want rid of said player, but we'll talk about that in just a minute because there's lots of Celtic news to get through this morning. Luke McCowan and Arne Engels started the game yesterday. And Arne Engels scoring, which was a cracking goal to score. He made it look easy. Adam Ida made a similar goal attempt look hard, and he's the striker. So when you look at the way that Arne Engels performed yesterday compared to Adam Ida, some people will say, look, neither deserve to be in the Celtic team. They do, and Brendan Rodgers needs them as players, and he wants them as players, and that's the most important thing. But neither played particularly well yesterday. When it comes to the game on Tuesday, there'll be a much changed team, so do not worry about the performance levels yesterday. The performance levels did drop a bit yesterday, but we still managed to get it over the line. Brendan Rodgers knew that the changes that he made, he knew the reasons why he made them, thinking of Tuesday's game, and he also knew that the players that we have at the team have it within them to be able to beat Hibernian quite easily. But it was anything but easy. Well, it was 3-0. And when you look at it on paper, a 3-0 victory is a fantastic win at this time of year, a very difficult time of year. But it could have been more. It could have been way more. And the fact that it took the goalkeeper to become man of the match, people will say, like, Rodgers needs to settle his team. Well, it's not, because there's high stakes at this time of year. There's high stakes in dropping points in the league and allowing other teams to come into it, and there's high stakes within the Champions League. With the new format in the Champions League, and if you look at the Champions League table, we are sitting on 8 points, which is a fantastic amount of points. Let's talk up the team, because we're in and around teams like Juventus, PSV, Man City, AC Milan, Atletico Madrid, Benfica, Bayern Munich, and Lille, all within, and even Sporting, and even, you can say Aston Villa, Monaco, Arsenal, and Leverkusen are all within our grasps of overtaking them in the Champions League. Now, the fact that Celtic are sitting on a goal difference of 0 in the Champions League is fantastic, considering the thumping that we took in the early stages of the Champions League. When you look at the last game, Club Brugge, they're still sitting on a -3 goal difference and 1 point behind us. When you look at the team that's up next in the Champions League, Dynamo Zagreb, they're on a -5. And even with the gubbin that Celtic had at the early stages of the Champions League, the fact that we are sitting on a goal difference of 0 with 8 points, when you look at the teams above us, Juventus are sitting on a goal difference of +2, PSV are sitting on a goal difference of +3, Man City are +6, but they're only on 8 points. They're only 1 point in front of us. I mean, they could be overtaken if we get the right result against Zagreb. Milan, +2. Atletico Madrid, who destroyed Celtic last season, they're only sitting on +2 and 9 points. +2 goals. Benfica, +3 and 9 points. If Celtic were to get the win, it would take them up to 11 points in the Champions League, which puts us in and around that area with the slight possibility of still finishing in that top 8 if results go our way. It's going to be a hard call. It is going to be a hard call, but ultimately the team will just want to get through to the final 2 games after the league format. I think that the players and the manager will be more than happy on that. As fans, we want to try and do our best, and when you look at it, we had a real opportunity to be in and around the mix on 10 points. I mean, if we'd been up there on 10 points, we'd have been sitting around about, I mean, if we'd won the game, we could have been sitting around about 10th, 11th, 12th, and that's how close the margins are. Instead of sitting down in 20th. I mean, it's that fine margins in the games just now that when it comes to goals, we need to start scoring more goals in the Champions League. And that's where the big changes will come in the game in midweek. But anyway, such is life at Celtic, that we can afford to, in the league, change the team a bit and our standards slip. Although it wasn't as bad as earlier on in the season when we changed the team, when Brendan Rodgers changed the team. When I look at the game coming up on Tuesday, I think we will focus more on that than yesterday's game. Cameron Carter-Vickers was left out, Hatate was left out, Kyogo Furiashi was left out, I think those three players will definitely come back into the game. I think Liam Scales will be the one that drops back down to the bench with the defence. Rio Hatate, he'll come back into the midfield with Callum McGregor. And I don't think Arne Engels will get there. I think Paulo Bernardo will get the nod for the Champions League away game, just because Paulo Bernardo does play that little bit better than Arne Engels. Arne Engels is younger and he doesn't have the experience that Paulo's had at Celtic over the last year or so, and I think that will make the massive difference, and that will be in the manager's mind. Kyogo Furiashi is going to start all day long for what Kyogo gives you in front of goal. Adam Ida had a massive chance again in the game yesterday, and he missed a couple of golden opportunities. The one where he tried to backheel it. I mean, don't try and do clever stuff in the box. Just get your... I mean, he's obviously brimming with confidence to try and attempt that, but you have to be a really special player to be able to do things like that on a regular basis. And I don't think Adam Ida's at that level yet. And I'm just being honest. I'm not slating Adam Ida at all. I just don't think that he's good enough to be doing the wee sort of, the ball comes in and the wee flick back heel and into the goal. I mean, he's done it before. He done it last season at Celtic. He has that confidence in him. But when you're just getting your chance, it's just do the easy stuff. Do the easy stuff. All you had to do is tap it into the back of the net, and you missed it completely, Adam. And he'll know that. He'll be his biggest critic. I mean, there's no point. Us as fans can have our say, and we're all entitled to our say. It's called the One Celtic Fans View. But there'll be no bigger critic than himself, than Adam Ida. So let's not think that he's walking about Celtic Park after it going, it's fine, fuck, it's a miss. Do you know what I mean? He'll be going in there and sort of head down and, do you know what, I fucked up. Sorry lads, I did muck up. But anyway, there were some good goals yesterday, even though Adam Ida didn't produce any. So, when it comes to it, and let's talk about players that are out of contract. Yes, there's quite a few players that are out of contract next summer. And one of them is obviously Kasper Schmeichel. He's not out of contract. He does have that option of the second year. And he was asked yesterday, are you going to get Kasper signed up for that other year? Well, he's already got it in his contract. It is 1 year with a second year option. And Brendan Rodgers told the press, I'm not going to tell you, would you? I'm going to tell him first. Look, I don't think that... after the 3-0 win yesterday and Kasper Schmeichel getting man of the match, and when you listen to Kasper Schmeichel yesterday, that's a player that is absolutely loving his time at Celtic, and he's in absolutely fantastic form. When you look back at Joe Hart was a fantastic keeper. His first season at Celtic, there was moments when Joe Hart would give us all absolute heart failure. When he was uncomfortable with playing the ball out for the back to the defenders, he was really uncomfortable with that, and it took him about a year, and I think Joe Hart would admit that himself. It took him about a year to get to grips with the way that Ange wanted him to play. And then it was a continuation when Brendan came in. But we have Kasper Schmeichel, and you've got to say, what a fantastic top-level keeper that we do have. I mean, other teams in Scotland will say that they've got keepers that should be in the England team, and yeah, we've got a Danish number one that is at the tail end of his career that is still playing at the highest level and who wants to play at the next World Cup. And if he wants to play at the next World Cup, that means he's going to be staying at Celtic to do that. And Brendan Rodgers and everyone praised Kasper Schmeichel all day long over his fantastic saves. And Celtic have had an unbeaten run in Scotland now of 30 games. Aberdeen, who dropped more points, they're just also runs now. I just hope that they have it within them to be able to stay in second place. But anyway, Brendan Rodgers, speaking to Sports Sound after the game, I can trigger the option for another year in Celtic's contract and Schmeichel's contract at any time. I wouldn't tell you, I would tell him first. Of course he's going to trigger that at any time. Of course he's going to trigger it. It's a conversation that will have took place between Brendan and Kasper. I was about to say Peter. Kasper. And I don't think that they're over worried about the situation. You know, they're more worried about the ongoing football that is going on at Celtic. You know, it's win a game, rest day today, back in on Monday, and it's 1 day until the next game. It is that frantic just now. And the last thing that you want to be doing is like speaking about contract situations. And that will take us on to the Greg Taylor situation in just a minute. But Arne Engels managed to get a goal. And then there was the own goal that Adamida tried to claim, and Celtic Tannoy system said it's a goal by Adamida. It was an own goal, we all know that. But anyway, but the goal by Kyogo. Some people say that the goal by Kyogo was a bit like a Kenny Dalglish, and there was other people online yesterday saying, it wasn't Kenny Dalglish, it was more Larson type with that little flick. And for me, I mean, I know I spoke about this yesterday, but the first reaction when you seen Celtic TV turning to Brendan Rodgers wasn't celebrating the goal. He's looking up at the screens and he's waiting on the playback. He's waiting to see, because he knows how good Kyogo is. And I think what frustrates Brendan Rodgers about Kyogo, and he wouldn't, I don't think he would admit this in public, but I think what frustrates everyone about Kyogo is that he does a shot like that yesterday, right? And he flicks over the keeper. And then he gets 1-on-1 with the keeper the week before and a couple of weeks before. And what you think is an absolute easy chance, he puts wide. You know, and I think that consistency level, if Kyogo gets back up to that consistent, and especially now that we're hitting this time of year, if Kyogo starts turning on the style again like he did his first season, we know we have a fantastic striker, and we know that he's not going anywhere. And I don't think that, I mean, Celtic would want to sell him anyway. Brendan Rodgers, for one, definitely would not want to sell Kyogo because he is such a fantastic player. But there's just little parts of his game on consistency. And people will say, look, Henrik Larsson missed chances. There's fine margins, and Kyogo will tell you himself, he isn't anywhere near, and he spoke about it to the media, the Japan media a couple of weeks ago. He's nowhere near the targets that he has set himself for this season with Celtic. And that tells you enough about the player that you can understand the mentality of him, that he knows that he's not hitting the heights. It's okay me saying it, but when you listen to the interviews that he done with Japan Television a couple of weeks ago, he himself says he's not hitting the heights that he wants to at Celtic. He knows that he's missing too many chances. So, you know, it's not just me sitting having a dig at him. It's, you know, it is coming from the player himself, who ultimately has said it. But anyway, I think he will play in the team. The post-TV interviews with Schmeichel was absolutely brilliant yesterday. When you see the smile on that guy's face, absolutely brilliant. Anyway, Nico Kuhn was taken off at half-time for James Forrest, and everyone thought, Jesus, no, he's not injured, is he? And surely not. Or was it safety due to the fact that, you know, we've got the Champions League game, we want to try and just wrap some of our players up in cotton wool. You never hear us saying that about players just now, do you? We're going to wrap them up in cotton wool, get them all snug and warm during this winter, and wrap them up in cotton wool for the Champions League game coming up. But as Celtic made it 30 unbeaten games in Scotland, and we now look towards the Champions League, Brendan Rodgers took him off because he says, look, when it comes to it, there's only one player that doesn't give the ball away on the wing, and that's James Forrest. James Forrest is the only player that I've known throughout my whole career that can keep the ball as much as any other winger. He's up there with the best. But anyway, Celtic travel to Zagreb and the Premier Sports Cup final in a couple of weeks. We'll see how they do today on their away game. I think they'll win today. There's no point in even thinking anything else. But anyway, there was an article, before we talk about the transfer situation with a couple of players. There was an article that I read, and you always get it, the week of a Champions League game. It's let's have a dig at Celtic. And you've got the media in Scotland are absolutely pathetic. Yes, I'm going to have a go at journalists again. The media in Scotland are absolutely pathetic. And it comes around. Toe curling Celtic fan chant. Lucky not to cop a UEFA fine for sheer embarrassment. But our away record is no laughing matter. Yep, it's like have a dig at the Celtic songs on a weekly basis. Yet, at a certain part of Glasgow, you can sing about being up to your knees in Fenian blood and doing the bouncy on Catholics' heads, and it never gets spoken about in Scotland, does it? Thank goodness to stay in a Catholic country that has Catholic morals, and you know, we all know what Scotland is, and I love my home country, but when you have people in the media that decide to point out every single Champions League game about the songbook and the way form. I'd just like to remind them that Rangers were the worst ever team in history to have participated in the Champions League just a couple of years ago. Yes, they got that record of the worst team ever. The new club that was formed in 2012, and let's face it, they are a new club. They can say, we've got our history. This is what we looked like in 1872. This is what we look like now. Liquidation is a real thing, and liquidation means that you die. And the papers had it, R.I.P. Rangers. But that's enough about them. And I'm not even going to read the media thing, because it says Celtic Sorter's songbook can be electric collection of some catchy numbers and others that can get folks' knickers in a twist. Real toe curler songs. Piss off. I'm going to back the guys, and I will always back the guys that spend their money and go to games. The guys that go to games home, away, and in Europe every week spend some amount of money. And for anybody to criticise them, you go and spend the money that they spend, right? You go and spend the money that they spend. I know people that are already on their way to Zagreb. I know people that are on their way to Zagreb already. I've seen them on my Facebook. They're halfway there. They land in Zagreb tomorrow. I mean, the money that these people spend following Celtic, and people criticise them. I just find it absurd that armchair fans have the audacity to criticise fans that spend tens of thousands easily. I mean, they spend thousands and thousands of pounds a year following Celtic. And for me, and people say, but the Green Brigade this, the Green Brigade that. And yes, the pyro thing is a thing that is getting looked at a bigger stage. But Celtic fans over the history, over recent history, going back to Seville, are absolutely loved everywhere. And the amount of money that these guys spend, and for people in the media to criticise the Celtic fan base, and if you're going to do it, and you're going to say about the whataboutery in Scottish football is terrible, so what about them? Well, you need to point it out. Do you know what I mean? You need to point it out. Anyway, move on. We're going to talk about Greg Taylor, and we're going to talk about Daniel Cummins, the teenager that is scoring for fun down in the B team, has been subject of interest from Wolverhampton Wanderers, Fulham and Ipswich Town. And it does look like that he will be another youth player that will be leaving Celtic. And Celtic don't seem to be overly bothered about the situation. It's another youth player that obviously has delusions of grandeur that he's going to walk into teams. And, he's not signed that contract as yet. People have come out and say, look, he's a Celtic fan, he wants to say, but people say the same about Rocco Vata and all the rest of them. And I just think that it is what it is. If he does leave, people thought that he might have been the heir to Kyogo coming into the team, and he's not been given a chance. Has he not been given a chance by Brendan because he's had conversations? We've all been there and we've spoke about it enough. I think that Daniel Cummins is as good as a player that he is. He maybe be one in the future that Celtic will regret we're not really letting him go, are we? I mean, we need to get away from that narrative that we're letting him go. He's not been given a new contract, and he's not been given a new contract because there has to have been. I mean, Celtic just wouldn't not give someone a contract. There would have been negotiation talks with his agent and someone at the club. And if the agent goes in and saying, this is what we want, well, Celtic will go, well, that's not within our wage structure. It's end the conversation. It's as simple as that. And I think that it is what it is when it comes to the youth players. And you just hope that we start getting it right and we start producing the amount of youth players that we're used to. Because let's face it, even in this first team, we've got some fantastic players that have came through that know their place within the system and know their place within the team. I mean, you never hear of Tony Ralston complaining about not getting enough game time. You definitely don't hear Stephen Welsh complaining about not getting enough game time, who just signed a 5-year contract last year. But then when it comes to Greg Taylor, the Celtic manager has came out and said that he is a player that he really, really wants to keep at Celtic. And you can understand why. The speculation over Greg Taylor's future and and signing the contract, I don't even think the contract's there, Brendan said a few weeks ago. But this 27-year-old is out of contract in the summer, and I think it's a situation that all Celtic fans know that, look, a lot of Celtic fans will say he's not good enough. He gets dragged inside. Well, he doesn't get dragged inside. That's the position that he's told to play by Brendan Rodgers. And we all know that it leaves the left back area wide open, and people target that area. When you look at the fact that yesterday Greg Taylor was on the right wing at one point, away up at the front, coming into the box. I mean, he's a player that does like to get around the pitch, and Brendan Rodgers likes him as a manager. Rodgers has voiced his desire. He spoke about his desire to keep Greg Taylor and keep him part of the squad. He said that he's an invaluable player. And it's just how he plays for us. His attitude, his mentality. He said to BBC Sports Sound yesterday that I should have just played it back. It would have been a lot easier. He's played really, really well for us. And I want to try and ensure we can keep him here because he offers such a lot of the moments. You saw during the week how settled games are when he plays for us. He plays the role perfectly. I wouldn't want to play it. He knows how I want it to be played, says Brendan. He can make those good passes in the final third, and he can make the difference. So he's been good for me, and he's been good for Celtic over the years. Taylor was one of the changes that came in yesterday after Alex Bally was given the start. When you look at Adam Ida, Arne Engels, Luke McCown, Liam Scales all coming into the squad yesterday, I don't think that they will get a starting berth in the game on Tuesday. I think that the fact that Brendan Rodgers knows that we have a decent squad to be able to change it about in the league and still get through the wins, he will ultimately revert back to his strongest starting 11. So with that being said, it's time to wrap this video up. We will talk about that game. Yes, we will talk about that game later on this afternoon maybe. And we'll talk about it tonight. We'll do a Sunday Night Live. If we get enough comments, so we'll do a Sunday Night Live. And there was a big thing that happened yesterday, a massive thing actually. I haven't spoken about it because it's been going along the ticker along this time. But the Boxing Day Live event, yes, we have done it. We have managed, well, you have done it. Celtic fans have done it. You have 41 supporters have donated over £1,020, and we are guaranteed the first hour on Boxing Day, which is absolutely fantastic. I'm buzzing for it. Honestly, I'm so overwhelmed with the fact that we're managing to we've raised so much money at this time of year for the Celtic Foundation. The Celtic Foundation, who had the Celtic Foundation Christmas appeal on the jumpers yesterday, and those jumpers, the shirts yesterday, will be auctioned off. Those shirts will be auctioned off in the coming days. It's a fantastic amount of money to be able to, and I always get lost for words when I speak about this because it's amazing that we've managed to raise so much money so far. I expect it will go up, but we're guaranteed that first hour, and that was all that was worried about. Maybe reaching Boxing Day, and we didn't reach that £1,000 target. And don't feel pressured into donating. If you can donate £2, donate £2. Every little bit helps. We've got 20,000 subscribers on here. If everyone was to donate £1, well, that just says it all. I'm sitting at 20,123, which is a fantastic amount of subscribers for this little channel that is run just by me, and it is just all his lonesome. We have some fantastic moderators on the channel, and a big thank you to them also. Anyway, that's me for this morning. If we get enough comments in the comment section about doing a live later on today, let's see if we can do that. And on that note, have an absolutely fantastic day, Celtic fans all around.